Hey everyone, it's Coach Rick. A couple patients asked me about the fasting mimicking diet, client or two also in my lifestyle clinic. But this thing is novel. It's easy to follow. It's a stepwise approach, and it's kind of cool because there's 5 boxes for 5 days, and the protocol is made by Volter Longo. So I'll put links to my YouTube channel and the other videos I've done. I love this way to move metabolism, but there's other things I wanted to mention here. I've done this several times since June of 2019. And even with COVID, I've been at the pinnacle of my healthiness since then. Prior to that, was a intermittent faster. I have gone the route of vegan, keto, tried a keto experiment. See that video. I'll see if I can link it down below. I think it does work for some people. But there's always this moving target based on data as far as what's the best diet. Bottom line, and there's arguments for both sides, keto, low carb versus vegan, plant-based, and anything in between, intermittent fasting. So the idea though is that this moves the needle. So if we have people that are stuck, which I have a lot of, that's why I'm so busy in Advocate, the clinic, and my lifestyle clinic, medical cannabis clinic, we have a lot of people that are suffering. So whatever the landscape is now, it's not good because there's so much crap going on. And that's why I wanted to explain some basic proponents to what to expect and how to get through it. So if you do invest in this fasting mimicking diet, 5-day fast, number one, probably shouldn't be exercising aggressively. HIIT training, I love. 15 minutes of hell, I love. Cardio is okay, but I try to combine both together in addition to a long hike on Sunday. But if you're going through this, your musculoskeletal system is going to ask for a lot of ATP. And during this 5-day fast, you will be narrowing down your fuel sources. So it might not be advantageous to go aggressively with your long run or your aggressive HIIT training if you're a CrossFitter. Yoga, I think, is fair. Just have to be careful about extremes of temperature, which is part of the exercise question or statement. If you go with hot yoga or if you go with cold water therapy, you might not want to do that because that's extreme. And the body is going through a little bit of an adjustment during the 5 days and then rebuilding after the 5 days. I call it the 6th to the 16th day. I would probably not do extreme. I'd probably say if you're going to start an exercise program, do it after you finish the 5-day. If you're involved in an exercise program, even if you're an athlete, I just take it down a notch. Kind of like what you do with an injury. You don't necessarily stay away from all exercise, but you decrease the exercise intensity just for the healing part of the injury. Again, because muscle needs to be, when you task it and break down muscle fibers or causes stress to the muscle system, musculoskeletal system, it will require ATP to get through the stress. It also requires building blocks from white blood cells, fibroblasts, to fix the repair. And if the fibroblasts are low on their fuel, you won't do a good job. And then you might rock the system. So just try to take it down a notch during the 5 days. Number two, no alcohol. Alcohol is sugar, and I have some people who have wine every night for the resveratrol from the grapes, and that's fair. But if you have a gut problem, you shouldn't be doing coffee bean, you shouldn't be doing alcohol, and I think everybody's got a gut problem. The majority of Americans are on PPI, like Zagrid, Omeprazole, Prilosec, or they might be taking an H2 blocker, Tagamet, Zantac, Pepcid. Zantac's not available anymore because of cancer-causing issues, but regardless, if you need an acid reducer, I don't want to get off on a tangent, cut back on the alcohol and coffee bean. However, during the 5-day fast, it would be fair if you need a little caffeine boost in the morning, but it cannot be with any kind of fuel source, meaning no sugar, no carbohydrate, no cream. Black, I think, is fair. I think there's a couple of Volter Longo videos where he said, yeah, it's okay. It depends on what you're trying to do with this fasting mimicking, but it would be okay. Alcohol, no, because that's pure carbohydrate / sugar. Or if you're a hard liquor person, that's still going to be irritating the gut, which would be the next thing. There's something fantastic about decreasing the demand of the gut. So a lot of people will have autoimmunity, have irritable bowel syndrome, will have just bloating. And if you think about where the immune system is, especially in this COVID crap that we're going through, the majority of the immune system is based in the gut. So there's something called the GALT, gut-associated lymphoid tissue. Sorry, it's a little bit on the light side, but GALT is gut-associated lymphoid tissue. It's a whole system of immunity that's based in the small intestine. This is the small intestine here. This is the large intestine, stomach, and liver. So the digestive system is very important. I call the digestive system the co-pilot to you. You're the plane. The pilot's going to be the brain, and the brain can, using the vagus nerve. This is the vagus nerve. I probably should have made this a darker color. Vagus nerve can communicate with the gut. So if you're irritated, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, it'll fire off the gut. But the gut, so I'd say this is pilot, brain. But the gut too, with its ecosystem, its single cell layer lining, and the microbiome on top of the lining, and the slippery biofilm on top of that, and then the lymphoid tissue underneath that. This is a whole ecosystem, and the mechanics are very complex. But the gut can also affect the brain. So if your gut's off, the brain can be triggered. So people with bloating will get nervous. I've talked about this a couple times. Whenever I have a cramp, even a single cramp or a bloat, it reminds me back to 1988 when I essentially passed out in the bathroom of the ward in the Philippines. I had amoebiasis. I had such bad cramping that I had to be isolated at one of the hospitals for treatment of amoeba. And that pain, it was 1988, but that pain, if I start to have a cramp now, that pain will take my brain right back to 1988 and make me feel like I'm going to pass out. The stomach, the gut, the small intestine, the large intestine can affect brain, can affect mood. And it's really important to understand that. So via the vagus nerve. But while we're talking about this pilot and co-pilot theory of mine, the gut and the GALT, gut-associated lymphoid tissue, which essentially Peyer's patches, white blood cells, dendrites, immune cells, that they can be fostered, and the majority of them sit and live in the small intestine, but the gut, if it's working okay, will be able to protect and support your immunity. So the problem, well, it's not really a problem, but the immunity, the immune cells can protect the brain too. So co-pilot can support the pilot. Pilot can affect the co-pilot, but this ecosystem and the mechanics of the gut can, using white blood cells, control immunity. So in this COVID time, we have to be careful, because if the gut is on fire, if the gut's not working properly, if you have dysbiosis, see the other videos I've done at YouTube for the gut, you can actually cause inflammation to the brain. And not only the brain, but if you're hit with COVID and your immune system's too busy, you will not fare well. So we have to get cooking as far as what's coming up in winter of 2020, 2021, because I fear that we're going to go through a mini COVID crisis again. So if the gut's working properly, the immune system's perfect. If the gut's working properly, the brain will be able to problem solve, get out of danger, sleep well. And finally, the gut, if it's working properly, the bacteria will produce short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids are fuel for pilot. So you see how the two systems feed back and forth to each other. We always think, I'm fine, I'm not stressed out. Well, if you're not stressed out, guess what? This is going to stress you out, or this could potentially stress you out. So co-pilot, pilot, we can't think about one without thinking about the other. And that's why I think it's important to consider a fast every once in a while and a reset every once in a while. And with the majority of my patients suffering on multiple medicines and with usually some mood disorder, if it's off the line, if it's worse than usual, I think that resetting the gut would be the first thing I would do, especially before October, November, December. So if we can get the gut to work better, then great. And I think this is a great step-off point. This is expensive, and I do have videos, a video of how to calculate your own fasting mimicking diet. But aside from saying don't partake in any big exams that you have to tax your mentation, don't aggressively undertake any exercise. Consider the emotional stability in the house. So if there's other people that rely on you, long distance driving, problem solving, doing homework, being homeschooled, doing taxes, I probably wouldn't entertain that task just yet. Again, this morning, without much sleep last night, I did fine. So, and again, I usually prep for these talks, but didn't need prep. My brain is really ready for starting the day, which will start in about 2 minutes. So, I think it's important to have everybody supporting you also on the same page. You might be grumpy, and that's okay. You can sometimes, if you haven't tasted ketosis before, you might enter into this 5-day fast prepping with a little bit of ketosis. So if your body, brain, gut is not used to using an alternative fuel except for carbohydrate, it's going to be a tough start. And thus I suggest maybe a little taste of ketosis. Ketosis can be manifested in taking ketones. There's beta hydroxybutyrate. Ketones are essentially fuel sources, and fasting would be another. Everybody who fasts will have the production of ketones. And ketones, again, if you're not taking any fuel, you probably have a lot of extra fuel here, your depot fat, your visceral fat, your subcutaneous fat can be used as fuel. Just have to unlock that. And during the fasting, sometimes if you haven't unlocked it and it's the first time, it's going to be a tough third day at least. Usually my challenge would be by the third day, I'm feeling okay. It's just getting past the hump. But now, again, this is triggered. I've done this enough times, and I am very well keto adapted that I can go into this. Or whether you do exercise is a form of ketosis. They're all smoother entry levels into getting into a little bit of a starvation. So why do we do this? Hormesis is another term that if you introduce a stressor, and the stressor is just enough, that Goldilocks window, then the system will build itself up to tolerate more stressors in the future. Whether it's taking advantage of problem solving, testing in school, putting on muscle and pushing the envelope, working on endurance. That when we introduce hormesis, or the concept of hormesis, we will become better adapted at getting to 100. So the idea would be you want to get to an old, ripe age without being a burden to anybody else and without losing your mind and without having medical disease intervention, medicines or surgeries. I think we have to make it so that we decrease morbidity. And the problem in the United States I see, and which is why I think we're having a lot of disease manifestation of this COVID, is we eat the wrong things, we live the wrong life, we're really underslept, and we just have no spirituality. So that's for another video. But if we can kind of corral in the imbalances, I think we'll feel better. So if you feel better, less medicines, less side effects, you feel even more better and to invest. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea about my journey with regards to trying to be healthy for my 60s. I'm going to be tackling Colorado in about 2 weeks on my way to Everest. I have these bite-sized activities I try to keep myself engaged with so I can see my great-great-grandkids and also so I can change the world. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an opportunity to maybe invest in this or find your own way. Maybe just pulse and try something on your own to get yourself off the line. If the line of the standard American diet is really crappy and the lifestyle is terrible and your mood is terrible and your energy is poor and you can't exercise and you can't sleep and you're just on medicines, I got news for you. You're going to be on more medicines. You're going to fall off the line. If you want to be healthier and get off the line, then I think this is the way to do it. Always see your doctor. This is not meant to be a substitute for your doctor, but I think that I have a responsibility to give you a couple of good data-supported ideas to make life better. So share this if you know anybody that's kind of on the fence too. Otherwise, subscribe to me on my YouTube channel. I'll see you in the next video.